If you've ever laid out succulent leaves just like this, waited weeks or even months and nothing has happened, you are definitely not alone. I get comments every week from people saying, "Why won't my succulent propagate? What am I doing wrong? Why does everybody else's grow babies but mine don't?" The truth is, some succulent leaves will never propagate into new plants, and most people don't know why. Today, I'm going to show you the biggest mistakes people make with succulent propagation, how to tell if a leaf actually has a chance to grow a new plant, and what I do to get hundreds of new succulent propagations every year. Most people think that if you pull off a succulent leaf, it will definitely grow into a new succulent. Unfortunately, it's not always that easy. Some leaves are too young, some leaves are too old, sometimes they broke incorrectly, or sometimes they came from unhealthy plants. Leaves like this are very unlikely to grow, and some leaves just take a very, very long time to grow. Near the end of this video, I will show you a leaf that sat for almost 5 months before it showed any sign of propagation. Most people would have thrown it away by then. But let's dive in to the top 5 reasons your succulent leaves are not propagating. Mistake number 1, the wrong kind of succulent. This always surprises people. So not every succulent propagates well from just a leaf, and some don't propagate from leaves at all. Some of the best succulents for leaf propagation are Graptocedum, Sedum, Echeveria, Graptivaria, and jade plants. Right away, you'll notice the leaves of these succulents are plump and full of water. They are designed to propagate from fallen leaves in the wild. Succulents that are unlikely to propagate from leaf are aeoniums, many aloes, haworthias, agaves, senecio. You'll notice the leaves of these succulents are generally flatter, they're not as full of moisture, and they're just generally not designed to fall off and propagate into a new plant. Having said that, all of these succulents are actually really good at propagating from stem cuttings or from pups growing up underneath them. Some, such as senecio, require a stem and a node to propagate. So your string of pearls, string of bananas, blue chalk sticks, all of these need a stem and a node in order to propagate. I have a friend who once popped off every pearl of her string of pearls in hopes to propagate a ton of new plants, only to get the heartbreaking lesson that they do not propagate from leaf. They need a string, a whole node, a branch in order to propagate, and she more or less killed the plant. So knowing which plants will grow better from cuttings as opposed to leaves will save you a lot of heartbreak. Mistake number 2, your leaf broke wrong. This is probably the number 1 reason people's leaves fail to propagate. If you take a look at this leaf, you'll notice the base is broken and it likely won't propagate. What will probably happen is it will rot and turn to mush. This leaf, on the other hand, is a nice dimpled end. It has no broken skin. There's nowhere for the rot to sneak in and kill it. This one is a very likely candidate to propagate, unlike this one. So what do you think? Out of all of these leaves, which ones do you think are the most likely to grow? Mistake number 3, watering too soon. When you look up the word succulent, the definition is something pleasantly juicy, moist, and tasty, or a type of drought-resistant plant that has evolved fleshy, thickened leaves or stems to store water in arid climates. So that will tell you something about healthy succulent leaves. They already contain everything they need to grow into a new plant. They already have the water stored within the leaf. So when people try and propagate leaves, they panic. They water. The leaf rots. I have made it a habit not to water succulent leaf propagations until, bare minimum, I see roots. Even then, you can still wait. In fact, some of the best propagations come from leaves that are left to just dry up on their own on an empty tray. Once the mama leaf has dried up, however, it is time to give that baby plant some soil and some water. Which brings me to my next tip. Do not pull that mama leaf off until it has completely dried up. In fact, let it fall off on its own. That's when you know your propagation has been a success. Mistake number 4, too much sun. One really big mistake many new succulent parents make is giving their succulents too much sun. I know that seems counterintuitive because these are full sun plants, right? However, propagations need to be treated really carefully. Little succulent leaves have a tendency to overheat and just cook. Leaf propagations should really be kept in pretty mild conditions with bright but indirect light. They need some light, but not too much light. Similarly, they should be kept in a location that doesn't get too hot or too cold. If you are propagating indoors, you could keep them on a nice sunny windowsill, especially an east-facing windowsill with kind of like pleasant, easy morning light where it won't get too hot and then equally it won't get too cold. So here at my propagation station, I leave my leaf propagations on the second shelf down. On this side of my house, it is east facing, so it gets morning sun, but it's pretty much in the shade most of the day. However, we're here in California, so it's pretty bright, it's pretty warm, but it's not direct light and it's not too hot. When your succulent leaves have gone dark and a little bit mushy, you know they've cooked and they're not going to propagate, unfortunately. Mistake number 5, throwing them away too soon. One thing you need when you're propagating succulent leaves is patience. Sometimes it just takes a really long time, and sometimes a leaf will just throw off some roots and it will be months before you see any leaves. This can take time. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you get a pup and no roots. So you just really have to give yourself a little time. Make sure you set it aside some space that you know you can leave for a while. So I wanted to show you on this propagation tray. This is the one I'm holding in my hand for most of the video. And there's a few here, if you take a look, that are finally doing something. Do you see this? This thing, this leaf, I grabbed that from my mom's house. I think probably around Christmas time. It was in an arrangement and it just fell out. Popped it in this tray, and for the most part you can see a lot of the leaves have done stuff. That sat there for so long. It's now August, by the way, so from Christmas time to August nothing happened with this, and now finally we have got little roots and what I believe will be a new little pup. It is getting wrinkly, so hopefully that means something is happening, but I'm telling you, sometimes you just got to be patient. Another great example over here. Here's one. This one's done. I'm not going to pull this off because it's still attached. These were all from an echeveria. They all went in here at the same time. As you can see, this one grew a little pup. It's now withered away. These ones, they only have roots. So, it does take different amounts of time, but hiding back underneath this one, here's another one that I thought for sure it had some damage. So it was kind of an unlikely contender, but again, several months have gone by and sure enough, look, there are some little babies. So patience is a virtue. One other thing that it's really important to bear in mind is some succulents go through a dormant period. So that's a time when no growth happens, and different types of succulents go dormant at different times of year. So it's really important to really research the type of succulent you have and figure out when that dormant period is. So it is possible that if your leaf isn't propagating, it's just the wrong time of year and you need to wait for the season to change. Fortunately, all the moisture in that leaf, you can leave it for a while. Just give yourself enough space that you can leave those succulent propagations, leave them alone, give them enough time to propagate, and make sure you're just following all the directions that I mentioned previously. And the thing is, sometimes it just doesn't work and your succulent leaves don't propagate. So that's why I tend to propagate at a pretty large scale. Give yourself a little room for failure. The more leaves you have, the more likely you will have some wins. Okay, so finally, let's have some rapid fire FAQs. Should I miss them? No. Can I water propagate? Yes, but it's not recommended. It is not the best way to grow succulents. It's far easier to just put them in a dry tray and leave them alone. Should I bury them? No, just lay them flat as if they fell off the plant, fell onto the ground. Burying them makes it harder for them to propagate. Should I use root hormone? Again, it's not really necessary. I've found that it doesn't really make any difference. Some plants like aroids or other stem cut plants, root hormone is great for those kind of plants, but for succulents, especially succulent leaves, you don't need it. Can dead leaves recover? Sadly, no. When they're crispy, when they're mushy, they're done for, and you are better off just throwing them away. Just remember, if your succulent leaves haven't been growing, chances are it wasn't bad luck. It's just one of these simple issues, and now that you know how to address them, your success rate should go way up. I hope this video has been helpful in your own succulent growing journey. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what are the biggest propagation issues you've come across in growing succulents. Pop them in the comments below. I try and answer every comment that I get. And if you'd like to learn more about succulent care, I have an entire playlist as well as a 2-hour-long succulent masterclass here on YouTube. Don't forget, I'm also on Instagram and TikTok. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe right here.